Well, good morning all. I do hope that this works today. I've got a few things to talk about that have been going back a few days about the state of the state. Or, in another way of putting it, why Trump won. Let's firstly have a look at some of the things that are going on in this dreadful state of Victoria, which is suffering under 10 years of hard labour. Recently there was a report that a teenager, 17 years old, on charges with 57 charges. He was on bail on a series of charges, and of course he's been given bail 57 times, but on the last one, of course, he did it all over again and was caught. He's been involved in multiple sets of bail, threatening to stab teenagers, stealing keys from lockers in gyms and then stealing the cars, involved in torching a car. The list goes on and on and on. He tailgated gym goers. The whole thing just is continuous. So he, of course, although he's been on bail, he hasn't been living with his parents for more than a month, and the police have opposed bail on the latest incident that they've got him for. Well, a youth justice worker assessed the boy as suitable for supervised bail, which is what he has had 57 times in the past. He said he had maintained the support of his parents, who were unaware of his alleged offending 57 times on bail, and they were in a position to supervise him if he was released, because he hasn't lived with his parents in spite of the fact he had to for the last month or more. The magistrate said that while the community would be concerned about the alleged extent of the boy's alleged offending, the risk of him offending again was lessened with the support of youth justice. 57 times this hasn't worked. So what did our glorious Victoria court system do? He bailed the boy on condition that he abide by bail conditions. Abide by a curfew, live with his parents, and not associate with any co-accused. He'll be back in no time at all. Part of the problem is there are no consequences for these kids. And this is actually applicable to many of the problems that we face in our society at the moment. There are no consequences for your actions other than saying, well, I had a really tough upbringing and well, what else can you expect? And it's all society's fault. I'm really a good person. Just trust me. So this is just an ongoing exercise. The next thing, of course, is an extraordinary tale about a murderess, who is, with the approval of the Victorian government, whilst in jail for murder, serving, I think, 16 years, she's going to have IVF and then raise the kid in the jail for at least the first 5 years of its life. How on earth can any government go along with that? If they say that there's previous cases that have been involved in this, then they should simply modify the law. The key point here is what sort of life will this poor child live when he has a mother like this, when he's growing up in prison. He'll have no second parent, certainly won't have a male figure in his life or her life. It will just be a disaster. That poor kid, you would not wish his life on anyone. And furthermore, the whole business, when you're in jail, you do tend to lose all such rights, including matters of IVF. It is just absolutely ridiculous. And so let us move on to the next little system. Something that's irritated me for years, the Grand Prix. Now, this year, the Grand Prix has made a loss yet again. Well over $100 million of loss picked up by the Victorian taxpayer. Now, I figure out if there are 100,000 people, which there probably weren't, going over the 4 days of the Grand Prix, that is a subsidy of $250 per person attending per day. The government is subsidising those tickets by $250. When I say the government, it's you and I, our taxpayers. There's been a lot of talk about all of the great benefits that the Grand Prix has brought to the state. It's been here for more than 20 years. I have not seen $1 of benefit to me or any of my family. It's a load of nonsense. Yes, it lines the pockets of the hotels. It maybe increases patronage on some of the public transport, although most of it is free. It also puts some money into the vendors and so forth, and puts money, of course, into the Grand Prix organisers. Helping the community? Well, there might be some additional jobs but is it really worth a subsidy of $100 million every year? It's absolute nonsense. This story that you keep hearing about benefits to the community is absolute trash. And so we get to the latest exercise, an extraordinary business of shooting yourself in the foot, with the Australian Venue Organisation, who owns 60 or many more than 60 pubs, 60 in Victoria, announcing that they're not going to celebrate Australia Day in their pub. And of course the backlash was absolutely enormous. And this is really part of the reason why, when you hear this, I just think that's why Trump won. Because people in general, the community, are sick and tired of this woke business put on by the elites in our society. Who the hell was on the board that made this absolutely stupid decision? Could they not see? No, they couldn't see the likely outcome. In the same way that the woke boards that supported The Voice could not see what the community actually thought, kept telling us to vote for The Voice, vote for The Voice. Well, the community didn't. And here's someone else coming out saying, oh, well, we're not going to celebrate Australia Day because it will offend some people. Well, by not celebrating Australia Day, you really upset many, many more people. And of course now they're backtracked, but not backtracked completely. They say, yeah, well, you can celebrate it in the pub, but they don't really say that they're going to participate and put up Australia Day flags or anything. I think there's a backlash against this nonsense of trying to move Australia Day. Whatever day we pick, the unhappy people on the Indigenous side and the woke people will not be happy. They will find something to complain about. They really don't care for Australia as it is. They simply do not accept Australia and the current community. Let's face it, it just doesn't add up at all. So they're just a few things that have irritated me no end. And as I say, the state of the state is an absolute disaster. But when you read so many things, I just shake my head and think, that's why Trump won. Because people are sick and tired. The Australian venue people really didn't wake up to the whole business of go woke, go broke. And even now, they've reached the point where they say, oh no, we're not going to do that. Many people are still saying, well, stuff you. I'm not going to support your pub in the future. And maybe they'll wander back. But that will certainly hurt them financially for some time in the future. Absolutely stupid. All right, well, that's just my complaints for the day. I do despair of the current situation in Victoria.